Hello everyone, this is China Gateway 360. Today, we're cutting straight to how your foreign company can use Standard Contractual Clauses, or SCCs, to bypass costly security assessments for cross-border data transfers in China. Let's get into it.
Section 1. The new default standard. Take a look at this chart. The 2024 data flow regulations bumped the volume threshold up to 1 million individuals' personal information per year. That single change is huge. It actually dropped mandatory security assessments by about 40% for foreign companies. So, as you can see here, SCCs aren't just a backup option anymore. They are the new default baseline for the vast majority of foreign-invested enterprises operating in China.
Moving on to Section 2, the 4 red lines. Now, SCCs are great, but they aren't a magic bullet. On screen right now are the 4 specific scenarios where a full CAC security assessment is still absolutely mandatory. First, if you're designated as a critical information infrastructure operator. Second, if you're transferring classified important data. Third, if your cumulative personal information transfers cross that 1 million mark we just talked about. And fourth, exceeding 10,000 sensitive records per year. Trigger just one of these and your SCC is off the table.
Which brings us to the visual on this slide, what we call the sensitive data trap. It's a really common compliance gap. You might be perfectly tracking your general PI to stay under that 1 million mark, but if you forget to isolate your sensitive data volume, that's trouble. If you inadvertently cross that strict 10,000 sensitive record limit, it triggers an automatic mandatory assessment. Trying to use an SSC here is a violation, and the penalties can hit 50 million RMB or up to 5% of your annual revenue. Definitely something to keep an eye on.
All right, Section 3, Economics and Strategy. Here we have a breakdown of the time and money involved, and the contrast is pretty stark. Executing an SCC usually takes about 1 to 3 months, costing somewhere between 100,000 and 300,000 RMB. Compare that to a full CAC security assessment. As you can see, that comes with a prolonged, undefined timeline and a price tag that can reach up to 1.5 million RMB. From a purely strategic standpoint, SCCs are just a much more efficient route.
But what if you have a more complex corporate structure? This framework lays out 2 distinct profiles. For a standard foreign-invested enterprise with limited, specific data transfers, like, say, sending HR data overseas, the simpler, per-contract SCC is highly cost-effective. But if you're a complex multinational with 5 or more subsidiaries in China, constantly moving data across a global ERP system, managing individual SCCs gets heavy fast. In that case, an enterprise-wide PIA-B certification is actually your more efficient play over a 3 to 5 year horizon.
Section 4. Navigating the framework.
This slide outlines the exact timeline you need to follow for an SCC, and the pacing is incredibly strict. Before you even sign a contract, you have to complete a Personal Information Protection Impact Assessment, a PIPA, to address the risks of the recipient's jurisdiction. Once you sign the CAC template, the clock starts ticking. You have exactly 10 working days to file the CAC and your PIPA with the provincial CAC. After that, a 15 working day review window begins. If you don't get a correction notice, you're good to go.
Which leads us to Section 5, Pitfalls and Next Steps.
Now, clearing that 15-day review is definitely not guaranteed. This slide highlights the most common reasons filings get rejected. A major one is an inadequate PIPI that just misses mandatory criteria. Another classic trap is using a generic transfer purpose. If you just write down Global HR Management, you're almost certainly getting a correction notice. You need granular specificity, something like payroll processing via SAP SuccessFactors. Also avoid vague IT security promises. You need to attach specific encryption and breach protocols. If you do get rejected, you have 30 days to fix it, or you risk having to halt all your data transfers.
To turn all this regulatory context into practical compliance, you really need the right frameworks in place. As shown here, interactive SCC cost calculators, step-by-step drafting guides, and supplier vetting templates are available at China Gateway 360 to help streamline your operations securely. As data regulations continue to tighten, the question isn't just whether you can clear today's hurdles, but whether your data transfer strategy is resilient enough for tomorrow's audits. Are you truly prepared? Thanks for joining us for this explainer.